Hello. Hi guys, so today I thought we could just have a bit of a chill chit chat about the books that I'm currently reading, books that I plan on reading in the near future. I think we kind of need to talk about the reading rush, and also I'm gonna unbox this package that's behind me. It's gonna be a bit more of a chill video than usual, so I'd say just grab like a cup of tea and have a little snack and we can just talk a bit. I wanted to make tea to really drive home the cozy feels, but it's way too nice and warm outside to drink tea right now. Oh damn, that nice beautiful weather is stopping me from being cozy. So instead I have this. It's not real wine, don't worry. It's just the blood of my enemies. I don't know if you expected me to really drink a glass of wine this full. I saw Leora from Books with Leo do a video like this recently, and she drank her iced tea from a glass of wine, and I was very inspired by that. So I decided to, just to make it a little bit more fancy, drink my normal soft drink in a wine glass. So, books. Let's talk about them. I was in a bit of a reading slump a while back, but I'm crawling out of that right now, which makes me really happy because the book that I got recently just, boom, immediately just shot me out of my reading slump. I don't know if you've seen my recent bookstore vlog, but I went book shopping with Sabine and I bought a book and I finished it yesterday, and that book was The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. Oh. I just noticed that there's like construction work outside. I'm not gonna give you like my review of this right now, don't worry, that's gonna come in my June wrap up or July wrap up. Yes, July. But this is an adult fantasy series that was popular a while back and it's kind of recently regained some popularity. This is a fantasy series that feels really science fiction-y. It's one of those books that completely just pulls you into the world. It's about a world that is broken, that is being plagued by constant earthquakes, and there are people with magical abilities that can quench these earthquakes, but also they're being oppressed because of their magic. And you follow three perspectives as they kind of navigate this world. This book pulled me in because I just wanted to figure out what the hell was going on in this world. Anyway, I'm starting to give a review. That's not what I was gonna do here. Of course, I don't want this to be just another book series that I start and then never finish. I just recently found out that the only moments that I've actually like finished series is when I read them all within the span of like 1 or 2 months. So when all the books in the series are already published and then I just read them all, that's the only way I can get myself to finish series. That is how I deal with my crippling commitment issue when it comes to finishing book series, because that way it just turns into a 1-month fling and it's not really that serious, and then you don't get the commitment issues. Life hack. So when I finished book 1, The Fifth Season, which by the way also ended with like a huge cliffhanger, I immediately ordered book 2 and 3. And we're gonna unbox them now. I do see the irony of me having filmed a video recently about how to ethically buy books and how to support bookstores by not buying at like Amazon or Amazon alternatives, and here I am ordering books from the Dutch Amazon alternative. Really stupid of me. I honestly just forgot my own advice. I think this just goes to show that there are just these default places where you just go to when you want to buy a book, because right after I ordered these books here, I remembered, wait, I could have also just ordered them online from the bookstore, and that I could actually support the bookstore even when I can't go there. So that's really dumb of me. But now let's unbox this mistake. It's what I say every time I order books when I know that I still have books on my TBR that I should be reading instead. Part 2, The Obelisk Gate. I don't know why I did that. And part 3, The Stone Sky. I really like the color on this cover. Look at that. Wonderful. Oh, this is gonna look so good on my shelf. Also, just the power that N.K. Jemisin has. Like, every single one of these books won the Hugo Award of that year. I'm so excited about these. So, that's the end of the video. I'm just gonna go read these books now. Bye-bye. Oh my god. That almost went wrong. Then some other books that I really plan on reading. One of my goals, or not goals, but just things that I want to read in the near future is some more adult fantasy books. Why do I want to get into more adult fantasy, you ask? Well, of course, because of the ever-growing notion that if you're into YA fantasy, you have to eventually grow out of it and move on to adult. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, that's not the reason. I am a huge fantasy fan, you guys know that, and I thought I'd read quite the amount of adult fantasy books, but then I looked at my Goodreads and I found out that I'd only read like 8 adult fantasy books and all the other ones were YA. Not that there's anything wrong with YA fantasy, I love YA fantasy, but I do feel like there's this whole world of adult fantasy books that I just don't know about that I could be exploring. I mean, of course, the 5th season is an adult fantasy and I really enjoyed that one, so if all adult fantasy is like this, that's a good sign. Like, for example, one of the adult fantasy books that I really want to read is the Gentleman Bastard series. The first book is called, what's it called? Stupid brain, come on. The Lies of Locke Lamora, that's the one. I really want to read that one because I've seen it compared to Six of Crows and I really love Six of Crows. As you guys all know, I don't need to talk about it. Don't need to clarify that every time. You guys know that that's like one of my favorite books. Basically any book that is pitched as just like Six of Crows, give it to me. And then another reason that I want to get into adult fantasy is because I recently found out that there's this subgenre of fantasy called grimdark fantasy. I know it's been a thing for like years, but for some reason I only recently figured that out. I don't know why, because I'm a big fan of dark stories. I always talk about that, so I don't know why I didn't know that, but here we are. Grimdark is basically, I think Game of Thrones is grimdark fantasy. There's a lot of morally gray characters, a lot of just things not going quite well for the characters. Things are just a little bit darker than your usual fantasy. And I feel like that's something that I would enjoy because I always talk about how much I like morally gray characters, and the books that I tend to love are books that are just a little bit more dark. But on the other hand, I do feel like, you know, when I say I'm really into more darker stories, I do have to realize that I mostly read YA fantasy. And what's dark for YA fantasy is probably already pretty light for just standard adult fantasy. So either I'm really gonna love grimdark adult fantasy or I'm gonna be traumatized. Only one way to figure that out. But one of the series that I really want to read that is grimdark fantasy, and that also a lot of you guys in the comments have recommended to me, is the First Law series by Joe I had to close the windows because it's getting so warm and I think the heat is just getting to my head. The First Law series by Joe Abercrombie, the first book is called The Blade Itself. It's supposedly like the best example of like grimdark fantasy that's very character focused, which are two things that sound very appealing to me. So that's a book that I definitely plan on buying soon if I've kind of worked through all this. But yeah, that's definitely one that I feel like I am really gonna enjoy. I think, hopefully, there's definitely a part of me that's scared that I'm gonna read these grimdark or just generally adult fantasy books and that I'm gonna come to the conclusion, oh wow, I really don't like this, and that then everything I've ever said about YA fantasy versus adult fantasy, it just kind of falls in the water because I'm exposing myself as someone who is really not into adult fantasy at all. I don't know, or it's gonna be the other way around. Maybe I read adult fantasy and suddenly I figure out just how terrible YA is. I don't think that's gonna happen. I really don't think that's gonna happen. I do feel some weird kind of nervousness around venturing into more traditional adult fantasy. I don't really know why that is. Let me know if any of you guys kind of have the same weird feeling about that, but it makes me nervous to get into adult fantasy because I feel this weird pressure. There's definitely a part of me that's just a little scared that if I don't like it, that just means that I just don't get it, which is obviously a stupid thing. Like, it shouldn't matter whether you like a book or not, and you should just read whatever the f you want. I never swore on this channel. I'm very sorry. That's gonna be bleeped out. I swear a lot in real life. And then the last adult fantasy book that I really want to get to really soon, I've already spoke about this so often, so I'll be quick about it, and that is The Puppy War by R.F. Kuang, because I'm gonna be reading this for my book club. Link in the description. Apparently that's also grimdark. I didn't even know that, but I'm really excited about that. Just military action war fantasy. I'm into that. Actually, I have been thinking about this. I do think I'm not really into war in books, or like huge war scenes in fantasy in movies, you know, like in The Lord of the Rings or Narnia. Those scenes always, they look really cool, but I always think to myself, if I had to read this in a book, I don't think it would interest me. Like just these huge scenes about legions attacking each other. I don't have any interest in reading that in a book. Like in a book, I prefer to read just about a few characters, you know, and their personal story, and not about these huge swaths of people running into each other. So many questions that I'll have to answer when I start my journey into adult fantasy. I'm really making this out to be way more big of a deal than it is. It really isn't a big deal. I'm just dramatic. Now let's move on to the other types of books that I really want to read more of. Amidst reading all of these fantasy books, I need to read some books that can bring me back down to earth. And the best way for me to bring both my feet back on the ground is to just bathe in existential dread. So I'm gonna read books about climate change. I feel like 50% just clicked away from this video the moment I mentioned climate change. So if you're still here, thank you. Please be with me on this journey. It's just something that I find really interesting. It's something that I just want to be a little more passionate about. So I want to read some more books on the topic. So that's what I'm gonna do. I had this idea of maybe making like a themed reading vlog, secret TBR kind of video, where I read a bunch of climate change books, and then the video will just be a vlog of me reading those climate change books and kind of discussing them and talking about which books I think I would recommend or which books I think would not be great, just to kind of share my opinion on the most well-known climate change books out there, if that would be helpful to anyone. But I honestly don't know if anyone would be interested in watching a video like that, because I always feel like, understandably, on YouTube, you know, if you're just gonna watch booktube for your entertainment, you maybe don't really want to watch a video in which someone's gonna talk about climate change, even though it is about books about climate change. Non-fiction about climate change, I feel like, is something everyone just wants to avoid because no one wants to feel the existential dread. But yeah, let me know if anyone would be interested in a video like that. Like, genuinely, let me know if you would watch that or if you would not watch that. So recently I bought this little book, No One Is Too Small to Make a Difference by Greta Thunberg. We all know her. So I have a bit of a story time around me buying this book. In case you don't know, Greta Thunberg is the little girl from Sweden, and she does a lot of activist work about climate change, and she's the girl who started the school strikes for climate change. And I bought this at a Monkey, the clothing store, because I was just browsing there. I couldn't find any clothes, but I saw that they sold this book, and this was a book that I've been meaning to pick up for a while now, so I saw it there and I was like, okay, that's cool, I'll just buy it here. So I bought a book, and then only later I realized the irony of buying a book about climate change in a fast fashion store. I don't know if that makes me disappointed or angry, because fast fashion is like one of the biggest contributors to climate change, and the fact that these stores sell these books against climate change is just like creating this illusion that they're being conscious about climate change. So it gives you, the customer, the illusion that you're being conscious with your buying decisions, when in actuality this entire store is doing nothing for climate change and they're still contributing to it because they're using fast fashion, and it makes me a little angry. I am very fun at parties, what do you ask? Then, another book that I recently bought when I also bought the 5th season is this one, The Uninhabitable Earth by David Wallace Wells. This is the Dutch translation. But this is a pretty, like, relatively short but comprehensive book about everything that's gonna go wrong because of climate change. Like, the first sentence of this book is, "It's way, way worse than you think." And if you look at the table of contents, the names of the chapters are things like heat death, hunger, drowning, nature fires. I'm sure this will succeed at giving me existential dread. So if there ever comes a moment that I feel like, I'm way too comfortable about life, I'm way too happy about life, let me just introduce some existential dread into my life by reading this book. And the last one that I'm going to talk about that is about climate change, the book that I'm currently reading. I am looking for my phone because I'm listening to an audiobook. This is the book that I'm currently reading, This Changes Everything by Naomi Klein. This is like a 20-hour long comprehensive audiobook. The dilemma that I always have with audiobooks is that if I read it in physical form, I'll probably understand it better and retain the information better. But then again, if I listen to it on audiobook, it significantly increases the chances of me actually reading and finishing the book. I definitely notice that I'm missing a lot of information when I'm listening to this on audiobook, but also I feel like if I bought this in physical form, I would not be able to get through it. Like, I would maybe read like 5 or 10 pages at a time, and it would take me forever. So right now I'm just settling for the audiobook, which I think is fine. I don't know, that's always kind of a choice that I have to make when I decide whether I want to buy something in physical form or audiobook, because I do notice also for fiction that listening to it on audiobook kind of takes away a little bit of the story experience, especially for fantasy and nonfiction. I don't know if anyone else has that, but that's what's going on in my mind. And now the last thing that I just wanted to chit chat about right now is the reading rush, which is next week. The reading rush is what used to be the booktube readathon, booktubeathon, and it's like this week-long reading marathon where you just try to read as much as you can. And I just remember when I started out booktube, I started around the reading rush, so I could do like the video challenges every day. I don't think they do those daily video challenges anymore, but it used to be like a daily video challenge. You could win prizes and stuff, and it was so much fun, but I didn't participate last year. Also this year it just feels so different because I'm not at home with my parents where I usually am around reading rush time. It just feels so different. Like on one hand I'm super nostalgic about the reading rush, but at the same time it has changed so much since the booktubeathon, and also the world is kind of in a state right now. And I for a long time I didn't even know if I wanted to participate. But now I'm like, you know, it's nostalgic, so I do kind of want to participate. But the thing is, I'm really over trying to create a TBR for the reading prompts, because right now I just have these books that I was just talking about this entire video that I just want to read right now, and I don't really want to like go and try to find other books just to fit the prompts. So I thought, you know what? Let's just go to the TBR prompts for the reading rush this year together, and we can kind of find out if I can find books that I wanted to read that I mentioned in this video that will fit those prompts, if that makes sense. So we're just gonna try together to find books to fit these prompts, and if I can find enough books to fit these prompts, then maybe I'll participate in the reading rush. It's not loading. It's June 20th until June 26th, so that is Monday when it starts, 2 days from now. You don't actually have to read a book for every single prompt. It's pretty laid back, but if I can at least find, you know, like maybe 3 or 2 books to fit those prompts, it would be nice. Also, I don't know what the rules are regarding whether you have to start it exactly during the reading rush, because like for example, I want to start the Obelisk Gate today. I'm gonna start reading this right after I film this video, but then I've already started it, so can I still read it for the reading rush? I'm gonna decide right now that the answer to that question is yes. So the first TBR challenge is read a book with a cover that matches the color of your birthstone. So I looked up the color of my birthstone. I'm born in August, and the birthstone for that is peridot, and it's green. But the thing is, I genuinely don't have... I have one book right now on my TBR that has a green cover, but I don't want to read that book. So I guess it is on this cover, but I genuinely don't think that I can finish this book and this book within 1 week, because I'm just not that fast of a reader, and fantasy books are kind of hefty to like get through. But the fun thing about birthstones is that there's so many of them. Like if I look up the birthstone, not for my month, but for my star sign, which is Virgo, which is basically just every color of the rainbow, there's one birthstone for you. So I want to read the Obelisk Gate because again, yes, I'm gonna start this today, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to finish it until in 2 days. So I'm definitely still gonna be reading this during the reading rush. This has like a purpley pink cover. According to this graph, one of the Virgo zodiac birthstones is pink topaz, and also amethyst, by the way. So guess this counts. The next challenge is to read a book that starts with the. Perfect. The third challenge is to read a book that inspired a movie you've already seen. I really like this prompt, but there's just genuinely not really a book right now that I've seen the movie of that I want to read. The fourth challenge is read the first book you've touched. So I'm pretty sure that in this video, the first book that I touched was the 5th season, but I've already read that. And then after that, the first book I touched was The Obelisk Gate, so I think we can just count that prompt for this one as well. You're allowed to double up your prompt, so I really like that when that's possible. Let's see how many of these TBR challenges that I can do just for the Obelisk Gates. Fifth one is read a book completely outside of your house. That's gonna be, again, I don't think that's gonna be possible. The only moment that I can think of that I can be reading outside of my house is when I sit on the balcony, but like the weather is nice today, but the rest of the week the weather's gonna be pretty bad again, so I don't think I'm gonna be able to sit on my balcony. So I genuinely don't think it's gonna be possible for me to finish a book completely outside of my house. And then 6 is read a book in a genre that you've always wanted to read more of. I mean, I did talk about the fact that I wanted to read more adult fantasy. That would count for the Obelisk Gate, but I think that's just a little bit too cheap because I mostly read fantasy. So it's not really a genre that I wanted to read more of. So I guess that would be like, what's a genre that I've always wanted to read more of? Like I did say that I wanted to read more climate change nonfiction. I know that's not really a genre. Is it? Maybe it kind of is. So maybe if I finish This Changes Everything by Naomi Klein during the reading rush, that could be something, but I honestly don't think that's gonna happen because the audiobook's like 20 hours and it's not an audiobook that I can listen to for hours on end. Like usually I just listen to maybe half an hour to an hour a day. And if you like calculate that, I still wouldn't be able to finish it at the end of the reading rush. So if I want to finish that at the end of the reading rush, I'd have to listen to like an hour of that audiobook every day. And again, it's not really an audiobook that I just like chill and sit and listen to because it's so dense. So I don't know if that's going to be possible, but if I manage to finish This Changes Everything during the reading rush, I think it might count for read a book in a genre that you've always wanted to read more of. And then the 7th challenge is read a book that takes place on a different continent than where you live. So this one would actually be really easy for me since I live in Europe and pretty much every book that I ever read takes place in North America. But the thing is, I'm currently not reading any contemporary books. So that also makes it impossible to finish this challenge unless a fantasy continent counts as a continent that's different from the one that I live on. Because if that counts, I don't live here. This is not Europe. So it looks like that if I finish the Obelisk Gate during the reading rush, I could actually fulfill 4 prompts with 1 book. I think that's doable. Okay, I think I've decided. I am gonna participate in a reading rush, mostly for nostalgic reasons. I don't think I'm really gonna like read a super ton and lot of pages, but I do really like the community aspect of it all. Oh gosh, these construction workers. It's not even construction work, it's just my neighbor, and I think he's making like a table out of a door. I don't know what he's doing, but he's been doing this for a few days now. The thing that I like the most about the reading rush is just kind of the nostalgia and the community aspect of it all. So I definitely think I'm just gonna stop. Yeah, I think I might do like a weekly vlog of the reading rush, and then you can see which books I actually end up reading that week. But for now, I just know that I'm already gonna start reading the Obelisk Gate because I cannot get myself to wait 2 days to start this one. I'm really excited about it. I'm just so happy that for the first time in a long time, the 5th season is one of those books that really just made me so into a book again that I just wanted to return to that world all of the time. and that just makes me really happy, and I really hope that the rest of the series will have the same effect on me. I'm just really excited to start reading this book, so I'm gonna end this video here. I really hope you enjoyed this kind of more chatty video. I don't know how long this video ended up being, but I feel like it's gonna be kind of long. Let me know if you would like more just cozy chit chat sit down videos like this, where we just chat about all sorts of things about books. I could make it a series if you guys like this. So definitely give me some feedback on that. Let me know which books you are currently reading. Let me know if you're gonna participate in the reading rush. If you haven't already subscribed, consider subscribing if you like this video. I will leave all my links to my social media down below, so you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon in another one. Goodbye!